down somewhere out of sight of any other walkers, bursting into tears. Up until this day, I can honestly say I hadn't cried for all of my adult years. It was like someone had turned on the tap after decades of being switched off. I felt completely numb, consumed by the reoccurring thought that I had failed at what to me was the single most important thing that I couldn't afford not to succeed at, being a good father to my daughter. My mind adrift, my heart broken. After this, I had absolutely no idea where I was heading. I was lost. The word failure stuck in my throat like a leech, and the constant question rattling down my brain was, what the hell am I going to do now? I had no money, and eviction and homelessness were on the cards. At 37 years old, I was a prime example of somebody suffering severe depression. It was about 3 hours before I reached Llangennith Beach. Together with Rasili, they make up one long beach stretch about 3 miles long. A beautiful place and an incredibly popular surf spot in the right conditions. This beach had become home from home, and I spent every waking minute here that I could, whether it be surfing for my own pleasure or taking people out coasteering. I'd spent so much time here over the years that I know it extremely well. Enough to know that a strong onshore wind made it inevitable that the swell was going to be big, the surf choppy, and all over the place. As I arrived, I looked down at the 100-foot cliffs at Rasili, at the ocean, and thought to myself, shit, look at the size of that surf. It was much bigger than anything that I'd ridden before. I can definitely surf, but I'm no professional. And looking back, my state of mind had clearly overpowered my normal sense of fear. Any other time, I would have walked away immediately. Today, however, I just didn't seem to care. The paddle out through the rough, white water to reach where the clean bill can be surfed behind was just too much for a mortal to handle. Llangennith and Rasili are renowned throughout Europe for having one of the biggest paddle outs going. My only option, I decided, and it was lunacy to do so, was to climb down the cliffs to reach the ledge from where I could jump into the water, rather than paddle out to face the monster head on. I would sneak up behind it. I stood for a while on the ledge, staring aimlessly at the sea, the spray hitting the rocks pluming 30 feet into the air. Despite the danger of the situation I was about to put myself in, I felt an immense sense of calm. Or was it abandon? I attached the leash cord from my surfboard to my ankle and realised that once I had taken a 5-foot plunge into the water, there was no returning to the ledge. The next time I would feel land would be 400 yards away on the beach. This brought me to my senses. I had a choice whether or not to cast myself into the maelstrom. I wasn't suicidal. That's just not me. I'm too much of a coward, and I simply hate the thought of dying, especially drowning. There is a huge difference between not wanting to exist anymore and the thought of committing suicide. I loved Caitlin, and I would never want to leave her with that burden, and was still emotionally aware enough to know that if I did something like this, it would destroy her even more. Killing myself was not on the cards. I looked up at the dark, brooding skies and shouted, "Fuck!" then jumped into the turbulent water. Suddenly finding myself at the mercy of nature in this way, I realised how vulnerable and insignificant a human being can be. Paddling as fast as I could to get away from the ledge and the rocks, I headed towards the break. Then behind me, thundering out of nowhere, came a killer wave. I turned myself on the board to face the oncoming slaughter, to give myself half a chance to dive underneath it. As it hurtled towards me, however, I realised I'd never be able to duck dive this. It was a muscular wall of white water, a speeding avalanche that would leave nothing but broken bones in its wake. I grabbed my board as hard as I possibly could, squeezing it so tight I almost welded to it. It was my flotation, without which I would not be coming back up to the surface again. It's incredible how many different thoughts a human brain can have in such a short space of time in a panic-stricken situation. But immediately, I knew I had to regain control of them